You're tired, aren't you? Not the kind of tired that sleep fixes. The kind that comes from holding on to something that already ended, but still lives in your mind, like it just happened. You've been telling yourself you've moved on, but the truth is, you're still replaying the moment, still rewriting the conversations, still wondering what you could have done differently, and I'm not here to judge you for that. I get it. You're just trying to make sense of something that didn't make sense when it broke you. That's what we do when we're in pain. We think if we can figure it out, we can finally let it go. But here's the thing. Trying to make peace through mental loops, that's not peace. That's just staying stuck. In prettier language. What if the reason you're not moving on is because you keep doing this one thing over and over without even realizing it's what's keeping you anchored? Let's talk about that. Not from some cold motivational angle, but from the place you're in right now. Because this isn't about being stronger. It's about finally getting real with yourself and seeing what's actually been slowing your healing down. There's something subtle that happens when you refuse to let go. It's not just emotional weight. It's your identity slowly molding around your pain. You begin to see yourself through the lens of what happened or what didn't happen or what you think should have happened. And over time, without realizing it, you stop experiencing life as you are, and instead, you move through life as what hurt you. Everything is filtered through that old story. Someone says something neutral, but you take it personally. A new opportunity shows up, but you hesitate, because deep down, you're protecting yourself from repeating the past. But the past is not chasing you. You're the one still carrying it. Letting go doesn't mean you forget. It doesn't mean you say it didn't matter. It means you're tired of giving your future to something that no longer deserves to lead it. It means you stop asking life to make the past right, and instead, you open space for something better to arrive. But that can't happen if your hands and heart are still full. This is the part where most people stay stuck, not because they want to suffer, but because they've made suffering feel like home, like something familiar. And what's familiar feels safe, even when it's not. So when you ask yourself why healing is taking so long, why peace never seems to stay, ask this instead. What part of me is still gripping the old pain like it's mine to fix? Because healing isn't always about doing more. Sometimes it's about doing less resisting, less replaying, less rewriting a story you were never meant to carry into your future. And maybe that's the real cost of holding on. Not just the pain itself, but what it slowly does to the way you show up in the world. You start living on edge, not outwardly. Maybe you still smile, maybe you still say you're fine, but inside, you're constantly bracing for disappointment, bracing for someone to leave, bracing for the next time life doesn't go the way you hoped. You don't call it fear, you call it being realistic. You don't call it tension, you call it being prepared. But really, you're exhausted. Because holding on doesn't just weigh you down, it makes you react to everything from the wrong place. You read too deeply into silence. You overthink a sentence for hours. You replay a memory and ask yourself, was it my fault? Even when you know it wasn't. And every time you do that, you reinforce the belief that the past still controls who you are right now. But it doesn't, unless you let it. And I know, letting go isn't instant. It's not one journal entry. It's not one long cry or one spiritual breakthrough. Letting go is a choice you make again and again. Every time your mind wants to return to what hurt you, it's the quiet decision to say, that doesn't belong here anymore. Not because it didn't happen, but because you're finally done giving it permission to own your present. Because the truth is, you don't heal by thinking harder. You heal by stopping the cycle. You heal by creating space. And space doesn't come from answers. It comes from release. Release of the pressure to understand it all. Release of the fantasy that it could have gone any other way. Release of the version of you that only knows how to survive pain by clinging to it. And the longer you grip it, the longer it defines you. And here's what's wild. The moment you start letting go, even a little, things start changing. Your energy softens, not because life suddenly got easier, but because you're no longer in constant resistance. Your body doesn't feel as tense. Your jaw isn't always clenched. You stop walking through your day like you're waiting for something to go wrong. You stop reliving things that already ended, not because they're gone, but because you're finally letting them stay in the past where they belong. You don't flinch at silence anymore. You don't rehearse every conversation in your head before it happens. You're not watching every situation like a movie you need to control. You're just here, in the moment, present, not perfect, but present. And that alone creates a kind of peace you forgot was even possible. You start breathing differently, slower, deeper. You notice little things, the way light moves in your room, the way your body feels when it's not under pressure, the way your thoughts aren't so loud when you're not trying to force clarity. That's what letting go gives you. Not answers, but space. Not solutions, but relief. And then something even more surprising happens. Life starts responding to you differently. Not because you did anything dramatic, but because you're no longer sending out energy that says, "I'm still hurting, I'm still searching, I'm still trying to make sense of it all." You're not chasing closure anymore. You're not trying to emotionally explain yourself to people who never tried to understand you. You stop asking for peace in places that always gave you confusion. You don't need closure to close the door. You just need the courage to walk away without carrying everything with you. And maybe that's what growth actually looks like. Not fixing what broke you, but no longer offering it space in your present. Not solving the old story, but refusing to keep reading it like it's who you are. Because once you stop needing to hold it, you finally get to hold yourself. And the more space you create, the more you begin to see who you are without the weight. Because when you've carried something for so long, a heartbreak, a mistake, an old identity, someone else's voice, it starts to feel like part of you. Letting it go doesn't just feel like release. It feels like losing a version of yourself you spent years protecting. That's why it's hard. Not because you're weak, but because you're untangling who you really are from who you became to survive. You were the one who kept it all together, the one who stayed quiet so others wouldn't feel uncomfortable, the one who overfunctioned so no one would notice you were hurting. You wore your strength like armor, because at some point you had to. But strength isn't supposed to become your entire personality. It's not your job to stay emotionally alert just to prevent things from falling apart. And healing doesn't mean becoming better at controlling pain. It means you finally stop tying your worth to how well you carry it. And that's when identity starts to shift. You stop seeing yourself through what happened to you. You stop repeating, "This made me who I am." Because deep down, you know, it didn't make you. It distracted you. It hardened you. It shaped how you moved, but it never defined your soul. When you let go, you begin to feel more like you. Not the version of you who was always doing the work. Not the version of you who needed to be okay all the time, but the one who doesn't need to keep proving that they've healed just to feel whole. Letting go strips away the story, and underneath it, you find someone softer, someone quieter, someone who doesn't need to be loud or impressive or hyper-aware to feel safe. Someone who just exists, free from the pressure to carry more than they were ever meant to. And when you meet that version of you, not as a goal, but as a return, that's when you realize you never needed to chase healing to become someone new. You just needed to stop holding on to what was never yours to keep. And when you start showing up from that place, not the guarded version of you, not the overthinking version, but the real you, the lighter you, your entire world starts to feel different. Not because the world changed, but because you did. You stop attracting situations that match your pain. You stop gravitating toward people who mirror your old wounds. You stop confusing intensity with love, confusion with depth, chaos with purpose. You begin to crave calm, not because you're avoiding life, but because you're finally choosing alignment over adrenaline. You're no longer addicted to emotional highs and lows. You don't need the drama the confusion, the mixed signals, because you're no longer trying to feel something just to prove you're alive. You begin to realize that peace isn't boring, it's honest. And when you're no longer carrying around emotional baggage disguised as control, you stop overcomplicating the simple moments that were always meant to be enough. You wake up without the weight. You move through your day without the internal pressure to fix everything. You're not chasing the next aha moment. You're not waiting for closure to finally feel free. You're just living fully, softly, honestly, and people feel it. Your presence changes. You're not in rooms needing to be understood. You're not shaping your energy to match what other people want. You're just there, grounded, open, undeniably whole. Letting go gives you back your time. It gives you back your focus. It gives you back your ability to respond instead of react. But most importantly, it gives you back yourself. The version of you that wasn't built from wounds. The version of you that doesn't need to manage everything to feel valuable. The version of you that trusts, not because everything is guaranteed to work out, but because you know you'll be okay even if it doesn't. That's the shift. That's what letting go creates. Not perfection, not control, but a deeper safety that isn't tied to anything outside of you. And that's what makes you free. At some point, you realize you're not gripping anymore. Not because you forced yourself to let go, but because you finally stopped resisting what was never yours to hold. And that feeling, it's not loud, it's not dramatic. It doesn't come with fireworks or a moment where everything suddenly makes sense. It comes quietly, almost unnoticeably, like an internal exhale that doesn't need permission. You feel it when someone says something triggering, and you don't react. Not because you've shut down, but because you've opened up enough to let it pass. You feel it when something doesn't go to plan, and instead of spiraling, you just adjust. You feel it when you stop over-explaining your emotions to people who are never really listening anyway. And you realize not every moment needs to be understood. Not every feeling needs to be fixed. You're not scared of slowness anymore. You're not trying to outrun the silence. You're not filling your days just to distract yourself from what's unresolved. Because now, you're not afraid of what still hurts. You're just not feeding it anymore. And that's the difference. It doesn't mean you don't have hard days. It doesn't mean the memories don't visit. But they don't own you anymore. They don't set the tone for how you show up. You can carry sadness without becoming it. You can feel the tension without tightening your whole body around it. You can let people misunderstand you without immediately trying to fix it, because you're no longer seeking validation in places that once made you feel invisible. And over time, this becomes your new rhythm. You don't wake up dreading the emotional weight of your own thoughts. You're not constantly questioning if you're doing enough. You're not holding a past version of yourself hostage in the name of growth. You're just living, without carrying every single thing with you, without attaching your identity to what happened, without needing to prove how strong you are by how much pain you can endure. You're soft, but not fragile, present, but not reactive, clear, not because you figured it all out, but because you finally cleared space for something real to take root. And maybe this is what freedom really feels like. Not a sudden breakthrough, not a perfect version of healing, but a softer relationship with everything you used to fight. You're not avoiding life, you're finally allowing it. You're not trying to escape the past. You've just stopped building your future around it. You're not holding back your emotions. You've just stopped letting them hold you. And no one sees the shift but you. No applause, no announcement, just an internal peace that wasn't possible before because you were too full of what you hadn't released. So if this video felt like a breath you didn't know you needed, if even one part of you exhaled, leave a comment with the words, "I'm ready." No explanation, just that. Let it be your quiet declaration that you're done gripping, done performing strength, done holding on just to prove something. And if you want more calm, more truth, more reminders that you don't have to carry it all, subscribe. This space is for you, and I'll be right here when you need it again. No pressure, just presence.